Avengers Infinity War. So I have many thoughts on Avengers Infinity War. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, now is the time for you to cut short today's podcast and then go back and listen to it a little bit later after you've actually seen the movie. If you're one of the 5 people in America who have not seen the movie yet, sorry for those in the room who have not yet seen the movie. I'm about to spoil a bunch of crap for you. So Mathis, it's time for you to turn off your earphones and then walk out of the room if you don't want to be spoiled, because I'm about to say a lot of stuff that's about to spoil the movie. Okay, so first of all, the movie is well made. It's really well made, considering they have to juggle about 83 different plot lines. And you can see from the poster that it's every person in the world in one movie. The truth is, the real focus of this movie is Iron Man, Thor, and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are really the people who you're following during this film. Captain America is not in the film very much at all. Here's a little bit of the preview. If you're one of the 5 people in America who didn't see the preview, here's a little bit of what the movie looks like.
The entire time I knew him, he only ever had one goal. To wipe out half the universe. If he gets all the Infinity Stones, he can do it with the snap of his fingers. Just like that.
Tell me his name again.
Thanos.
We got one advantage. He's coming to us. We have what Thanos wants, so that's what we use.
Okay, so everybody's in the movie, like everyone, including my mother. Like everyone is in this film. But here's my problem with the movie. So I have a couple of problems with the movie. Here's the stuff. First, the stuff I like. The stuff that I like is everything with Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth is hysterical. Chris Hemsworth is the best thing in any of the Marvel movies now. He is really, really funny. Everything he does here is very Thor Ragnarok based. And there's one scene particularly between Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth that is just hysterically funny and really, really good. Chris Pratt is really good in this. It's pretty obvious who the stars are. And this here and beyond that, Thanos as a character is a good character. So Josh Brolin turns in a really solid performance as Thanos. You don't notice the CGI at all, and his entire character is CGI'd. So that's a pretty cool thing. There are a couple problems with Thanos' character. Problem number 1 is that his motivation is insufficiently spelled out. So they say that he had a home planet. His home planet was basically overpopulated and the entire planet died in poverty. He had said, let's randomly kill half the planet and then we can fix and then we can prevent a shortage on Thanos' home planet. That's Malthusian nonsense. So first of all, somebody should have explained to him that perhaps with additional creativity of humanoid creatures comes additional propensity to create awesome resources. So back in the 1960s, Paul Ehrlich predicted that by the year 1990, half the population would be starving, basically. None of that ended up being true. So Thanos is basically Paul Ehrlich, the Stanford professor, with less hair. And Paul Ehrlich was totally wrong. He was wrong about everything. People are more prosperous now. There are more of us now than ever before in human history by a long margin. And yet things are okay. Somebody should have, honestly, this movie could have been solved if somebody sat Thomas Sowell down with Thanos. Like, that would have fixed everything. They should have gotten Julian Simon's ghost to sit down with Thanos, and they could have had a nice conversation about scarcity of resources and allocation of those resources. Also, if it turns out that overpopulation is a thing among humanoid creatures, typically people just have fewer kids, which is what has happened throughout human history, which is why as countries get richer, it's actually interesting. As countries get richer, people have fewer kids. But aside from the philosophical problems with Thanos, the movie revolves around Thanos. So every beat of the movie is involved with Thanos' story. It really is not Avengers Infinity War. It really more is Thanos, the origins, because this is all lead up to Avengers Infinity War Part 2. And this is my big problem with the movie. My big problem with the movie is that the entire thing is leading up to this giant climax where a bunch of people are going to get killed. And suffice it to say, without telling you who gets killed, a bunch of major characters get killed. There are some characters who get killed for real. But it is very obvious by the end of the movie that some of the characters who have been killed are not going to remain dead, though. Okay, now the reason that I know this is because I'm not a stupid human. And when I watch the end of Infinity War, and bad stuff happens, I won't fully spoil it, bad stuff happens to many of the major characters, there are certain characters where you go, oh man, I can't believe they killed that guy off. And then they kill off a couple of characters and you're like, nah. Because it turns out that Marvel is a Disney property. And Marvel is not going to kill off all of its most bankable stars because they have movies already slated on the books with these stars. Okay, so they're not going to kill off, like, you're going to know who I'm talking about, but there's one character in particular who's been in a film that made a lot of money, as in all the money. They're not going to kill off that character, right? And when you're watching it and you're thinking about it, the minute it happens, it takes you immediately out of the movie because you're thinking, no, this is not true. So in other words, we've got a 2-hour, 40-minute movie leading up to the worst red herring in the world, in which presumably all these characters are dead, but we know they're not really dead because they're going to reverse it and they're going to bring back all the characters. That annoys the living crap out of me because if you're going to create this idea that there are major stakes in the movie, if you're going to create this idea that deep, horrible things are going to happen, then you can't do it with me as the audience knowing that you're faking, with me as the audience knowing you're lying. Like the first time it happens, the first time somebody dies, and it's a major character, at the end of the film. There are a couple major deaths before that in the film, and those ones I think are real. By the time they get to the end of the film, when a major character dies, and you know that that person is not going to die, you're like, but what? So why couldn't we have just had like a 7-minute movie? Like, sure, it was fun and all, but we could have had like a 7-minute movie, and the 7-minute movie would have gone something like this, right? It would have gone something like this. It would have been a Star Wars crawl that says, Thanos, Scourge of the Universe, has found a box with 6 Infinity Stones in it. Flashback to Thanos on his home planet, debating with his friends and family about whether they should kill off half the population. Him losing the debate, half the population dying, right? Just like Jor-El on Krypton, right? And then, next thing you know, it shows Thanos with his magic glove on, right? He snaps, and then you get the end of the movie. So the whole thing could have been 8 minutes long, and that actually would have been the prologue to the second Infinity War, which is where this stuff actually is going to happen, because this is all a lie. The next Infinity War is where the remaining characters are going to go about reversing everything that just happened in this movie. Don't do that. That's cheating, okay? You cheated me out of $35 because I had to spend a bunch of money to go to the ArcLight with my wife to see this thing so I could talk about it. And again, did I not enjoy it? I enjoyed it. But you can't make me feel emotionally, like there's one particular death where they do it, and they are so attempting to strangle you as an audience member. They're so attempting to strangle tears out of you as an audience member in the way this character dies. And you're like, but he's not dead. Like, I know he's not dead. I know for a fact he's not dead because there's a movie slated on the books with this star a year from now. So he's not dead, right? So you're lying to me. You're trying to there's a scene in the show Friends where there's an anniversary for Ross and Ross and what's Courtney Cox's character's name? And it's not Rachel. It's the other one. In any case, Monica. Thank you. With Ross and Monica's parents. And Monica and Ross can always make the parents cry at the anniversary. And Monica desperately wants to make the parents cry, so she does a speech, and the parents aren't crying at all. And so she just starts telling stories about like when the dog died and all this sort of thing. Like there is that moment in Avengers Infinity War where one of the characters is like, basically the producer is saying like, you need to cry now. If you're not crying now, it's because you're a bad person. Why aren't you crying? Why aren't you crying? What's wrong with you? Aren't you? And I'm not crying because I know he's not dead. That's why I'm not crying. Okay, so. Was it bad? No. It was enjoyable. But am I going to give them the credence of pretending? Am I going to pretend along with them that any of these people are really dead? No, because I'm not a stupid idiot. Okay, so there is my Infinity War summation. And now, if I've spoiled the movie for you, sorry, but I gave you fair warning. You could have tuned out earlier and then listened to it later.